Alright y'all, there are a few fight styles that MMA fans love and adore in the UFC, but there are also some styles that fans absolutely hate. So let's go through the types of MMA fighters fans hate to watch, so let's get into it. The first fighter type fans hate gotta be sore losers. Like, believing in yourself and being confident in yourself before the fight is one thing, but after you lose the fight, the best thing to do is just show good sportsmanship. But there are a lot of fighters that don't do that shit, and fans absolutely hate them for it. Like when Juliana Pena and Jamal Hill lost their fights, instead of being respectful and humble in their loss, they both decided to hop online and cry about losing the fight for months. And for Juliana's case, even years after Amanda Nunes whooped her ass, she still continued to complain. Another thing fans hate sore losers for is the fact that they like to make excuses immediately after they lose. Like when Sean Strickland said for months that he lost a fight against DDP because of the shit that he said about Canada's government. And when Colby kept saying that his jaw wasn't broken and the judges kept breaking the fight in favor of Usman. Or how Jamal Hill keeps saying that Herb Dean distracted him, which led to him getting knocked out by Pereira. Which is stupid because leading up to the fight, each of those fighters all mentioned how they're at their best and their healthiest going into it. And sore losers almost never respect the person they lose to, which is one of the main reasons why most fans hate them in the first place. They tend to always become delusional after and end up making it their entire personality, and that's what makes them go from being loved by the community to being hated by everyone because of their delusions. The second type of fighters that I think every MMA fan hates gotta be female fighters. I honestly don't get the massive amount of hate women's MMA gets, but at the same time, after seeing fights like Rose versus Esparza, I understand why so many people don't like seeing female fight, especially a female title fight on a card. Even though there are a few female fighters that are actually good and well skilled, like Zhang Weili or Valentina Shevchenko, most of them tend to get overshadowed by the fact that almost every women's MMA fight is a snooze fest. And although a lot of female MMA fights are boring and slow paced, I see a lot of people say that it usually makes it a good time to go grab snacks or to go take a piss while the fight's going on, because there aren't as many knockouts or finishes in women's MMA due to them not having the same amount of power or strength as the male fighters do, which leads to the fight looking sloppy and boring. And while there's always an argument about whether or not someone's a casual UFC fan, I think both casual and non-casual fans can agree that no one really cares about female fighters or women's MMA as much. And it's something that I've been seeing whenever the UFC posts a female free fight or whenever they announce that there's a women's title fight coming up. Most of the people in the comments are usually complaining or they're already planning their piss breaks. Other than sore losers, inactive fighters gotta be the most annoying fighter type out there. A lot of them tend to talk too much on Twitter instead of fighting in the octagon, and Conor McGregor is one of the biggest examples of that, because we all know that he's not coming back to the UFC, but yet he spends most of his time on Twitter or on live streams talking shit about other fighters, and he acts like he's still in the top 5 or top 15 in any division. I remember when John Jones used to do the same thing, and I know that he has a fight coming up next month and got injured last year, but before that, there was no need for him to take those 3 years off to move up to heavyweight. And while he was doing that, he was on Twitter playing matchmaker and beefing with every fighter that he'll never end up fighting, which is exactly what Khamzat's been doing these past few years too. I swear, he's called out almost every fighter in the welterweight, middleweight, and light heavyweight division, and almost every fighter he called out accepted it, but it never happened. But I guess that's just what happens when you become an inactive fighter. Another thing that fighters like Colby and Khamzat both do is think that being inactive helps them get a title shot, which is crazy to think about because they somehow managed to get Colby 3 title shot attempts back to back, which he fumbled all 3 shots. And I know Khamzat's fighting this Saturday, but this is his first fight in 2 whole years, and even last year he pulled out from being sick. That would have been his first fight since 2022, which is crazy because unlike Colby, Khamzat has champion potential, but he can't get that title shot by being inactive. The other thing that I think annoys us the most about inactive fighters is the fact that they try to call shots as if they were champions. I think every fighter I have up on the screen is guilty of that, and the only excuse I can give them is that some of them, like John Jones or Conor McGregor, are big enough draws to where they could call shots as if they were champion. But for the others like Khamzat or Colby, or even current Conor McGregor, it just doesn't make sense as to why they think that they're such big draws, and without them calling shots, the UFC won't be the same. Because if Colby Covington, for example, didn't act like he was champion all the time, he could have fought Ian Gary, then probably JDM to get another title shot at either Shavkat or Bilal. But after the Leon Edwards fight, I don't think Colby's getting another title shot anytime soon. And the last thing that tends to happen to a lot of fighters that are inactive is that whenever they decide to come back, they're basically destined to lose due to their ring rust and how fast the sport and competition changed over the years. I still think that that's the main reason why Colby froze up so much in his fight against Leon last year, and why Conor lost to Poirier in his second fight. John Jones is the only fighter that really beat ring rust, but at the same time, he fought someone that has no ground game and got out wrestled by Ngannou. So I don't really really know if that counts. And I guess we'll find out how Hamzat deals with ring rust this weekend when he fights Robert Whittaker. The last fighter type most fans hate is definitely Dagestani fighters or just wrestlers in general. When it comes to fighting styles in MMA, most fans prefer the stand-up striking heavy style like boxing, kickboxing, and Muay Thai. But even though wrestling is the most dominant style out of the bunch, it's also the most hated because of its dominance. The one thing about wrestlers that we all hate is the fact that they always beat our favorite fighter, and they always make it look super easy too, like when Islam beat Charles or when Bilal dominated Leon. And even though most people already know what a wrestler's game plan is going to be going into the fight, it's almost like they have an 100% chance of winning, and they almost always win their fight. Khabib was a good example of that, but nowadays fighters like Islam, Merab, and Bilal have such obvious game plans going into the fight, but no one has been able to find a way of beating them or finding any holes in their wrestling. But now that we're talking about Merab and Bilal, we gotta talk about how a lot of the wrestlers in the UFC are sometimes hella boring. Fighters like Merab, Bilal, Evloev, and Almeida all have dominant wrestling skills, but they never go for finishes or are never a threat on the ground. They just take their opponent down or push them against the fence, and they just stay there for the entire 15 to 25 minute fight to collect points and win by decision, which is the main thing that's giving wrestlers a bad look. And the last thing I want to talk about when it comes to wrestlers is that a lot of them have no personality, and they genuinely all seem like clones of each other. Like outside of Islam, Hamzat, Merab, and Bilal, most of the other wrestlers have no uniqueness, and they really only have a few lines, which are I smash you and I smash everybody. But those were the types of MMA fighters fans hate. Let me know what you guys think and what other types of fighters you dislike. And also please like, share, and subscribe for more UFC content, and thank you all for watching.